Okay.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You guys ready to go? Carlabeth, you ready to roll? Let's get started. We'll probably have a few stragglers here. Okay, let's get this kicked off. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the second event in 2023 for Northminster Presents. As some of you know, this is a series sort of coordinated by the Men's Prayer and Study Group, and I'm John Purcell, one of the group. Tonight we're going to hear about caring for our children and teens, in particular, how to help them manage the stress and anxiety that they face in our modern world, a little different than the ones we probably faced when we were little. It's a very important topic for parents, obviously, but I think also for grandparents, for friends, for anyone who relates to children on a regular basis in their daily lives. Before I introduce our speaker, let me do one housekeeping item. We will field questions at the end. For those of you who are live streaming on Facebook, you'll need to, who are attending virtually, you'll need to do it on Facebook because there you can deal with questions on the chat function. We have someone monitoring the Facebook feed, and they will ask those questions for you when the Q&A time comes. For those of you who are in person here and want to ask questions, we'll have a couple of people circulating with hand mics. Just raise your hand when the time comes, and we'll send somebody over to let you ask your question on the mic. We want to do that so that people who are online can hear the questions as well as people who are here live. There's one special thing I wanted to ask you to think about for your questions as you're listening. When it comes time for questions, let's try to keep the questions to matters of general interest for people in the audience, both online and here. There might be some tendency from time to time to want to get into some very detailed issues about very specific cases, and almost like an individual counseling session, and we don't think that's likely to work very well in this context with a lot of other people listening in. So please keep that in mind as you start to formulate your questions. You may have some that you want to deal with in a more specific way, but that'll have to be done in a later time, different place. Let me introduce our speaker. Carlabeth Mathias is a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed mental health counselor. She operates a private practice in Fishers and specializes in counseling children, teens, and families. In addition to that, she also serves as a consultant for certain organizations, such as churches, schools, and agencies, and she does workshops and seminars for educators. She has specialized experience and credentials in the prevention of bullying, which we may get to tonight, and in the prevention of suicide. She has an undergraduate degree from DePauw in elementary ed, with some French, I think, thrown in, and a master's from IU in counseling and guidance. In addition to her current private practice, she's worked with children, parents, and educators for 30-some years as a teacher and an elementary school counselor in the public schools of Indiana. She has a husband and 2 grown sons, both of whom are teachers in their own right, so they're following in mom's footsteps in a way. One thing I warn you about, though, she's a lifelong Methodist, so keep in mind that she probably has more familiarity with forgiving trespasses than with forgiving debts. So enough of that. Please welcome Carlabeth Mathias.
Thank you, John. Thank you. But a little known fact is I was baptized Presbyterian. Became a Methodist at age 2. So, well, thank you, John, for that nice introduction, and I appreciate the Men's Prayer Group for sponsoring this tonight. But all of these, I was just talking with Jerry about the different topics, and it's really exciting to hear about the different kinds of things that the group is bringing. So I thank you. And appreciate Nancy Fortenberry's work and several other people that made tonight possible. So thanks for having me. I'd like to find out who's who as far as, do we have some preschool parents? Raise your hand if you have preschoolers. All right. And some of you may be raising your hand several times, and that's fine. How about our elementary aged folks? Quite a few of those people with us tonight. And how about middle school and high school? All right. Okay. I'm going to get to the teachers. And yes. So who's here because they're maybe also a teacher? All right. And any medical people out there that, you're going to encounter people with stress and anxiety as well. How about grandparents? Where are grandparents? Okay, great. Thank you. Youth workers. Maybe you help out with the youth here at church, or you're in a different capacity. You're working with youth. Anybody in that capacity? No? Okay. All right. Did I miss a group? Anybody here that you didn't fit into one of the groups I named? Okay. Well, thank you for being here. There's a lot of things you could do with your evening, and I know when you have children or you have other, obligations, it's hard to decide, am I going to spend that hour at church tonight or not? And so we're really glad you came. And I hope that when you leave, that you will be really glad that you came. I never know what people are going to bring to a venue like this as far as your own experience of things that you've done, that you've tried, ways that you've tried to help kids. So my hope is that you may hear something that you are already doing, and so you feel positive about that, like, hey, I already do that. Good. But maybe you hear something new as well. So I hope that you leave here with at least one or two new ideas that you can try with the young people in your life, whatever role that is. So we're going to talk a little bit about what anxiety and stress is, but I know you didn't come here for a theory lesson, okay? You came here for some practical stuff, and that's what I like to go to workshops for too. So we'll definitely get to that. Very sparse on the theory. We're going to talk about what kind of environment or approaches you can take as an adult in a child's life, again, whatever role you play, that will help them reduce their anxiety. What kind of environment can we provide that will help them with that? I'm going to share with you some specific strategies that you can teach kids, little kids, high school kids, the whole gamut, that will help, that if they use them, they can then reduce their anxiety and stress. And then we have some resources. I usually pack a lot of stuff into my workshops, so we might have to skip a little bit at the end. I'll try to watch the clock, but it's all there on your handout. So a lot of it is you can look at later if we run out of time. So I'd like for you to call out, what do you think stresses kids today? Just call it out. Bullying, okay. What else? Trying to fit in, absolutely. Social media, oh my gosh. School, Other thing. I'm repeating them so that folks at home can hear also. What else stresses kids out? What do they complain about? What do they worry about? Violence, absolutely. What? Siblings, okay. Family dynamics, yes. All right. What else? Okay. Performance, whether it's sports, performing arts, any of that. Did I make the play? Did I get on the team? Okay. Other things. I hear about terrorism. I get kids that tell me, Yeah. A young man this week said, I said, what do you worry about? And he said, well, like our country may be getting attacked. And I think that was a result of the balloon, but they worry. Mm-hmm. The news cycle. Yep. School shooters. I hear that a lot from kids when they make their list. Okay. Other things? They worry. Oh.
Sometimes like identity.
Yes.
I know working with teenagers.
Yep.
There's kids who feel accepted
Mm-hmm.
for who they are, and there's kids who don't. I mean, if their family is being accepted, it can still be really hard.
Absolutely. Right. She mentioned the identity, kids' gender identity and other their sexual orientation, that kind of thing. Can be very stressful. Oh, yes. COVID, getting sick and so on. Okay. Lots of things. Now, some of you are pretty young and some of us are pretty old, but I would guess that even those of you who are young, were there some things on the list that we just made that you didn't have to deal with when you were a kid? I'm seeing heads nod. Yes. Okay. So our kids are really bombarded by a lot of things that a lot of us did not have any experience with. So it's really, really hard for them. So we have to keep that in mind. Divorce, death, those are some that we didn't mention, but they're definitely somebody losing their job, their family, finances. Kids worry about finances. So those kinds of things are all really important. So here's the little theory part, okay? So stress is just the natural physical and mental reaction to life experiences. Things happen, we get stressed out about them, we have that fight, flight, or freeze reaction. But then anxiety is more of an emotion that is characterized by feelings of tension, being worried all the time, physical changes in our bodies, thoughts of worry that are persistent, just don't go away very easily. And it's a very general term that we use to talk about extreme worry or unease. It becomes a disorder when it interferes so much that we're not functioning well. Okay, that's when anxiety can become a disorder. It's not to say that it's not interfering somewhat before that, okay? But it's when it's interfering with, are they able to play with their friends? Are they, wanting to stay home from school? Are they pulling out of activities? Are they not doing their work? Okay, so those are some examples. Anxiety is the most common disorder for children and adolescents of all of our mental health disorders. And of course, there's different kinds of anxiety at different ages. This slide isn't in your packet. But this is the latest statistic that we have for anxiety and depression for kids. And this was done in 2020. And you can see 12%, almost 12% of U.S. children ages 3 to 17 had anxiety or depression in 2020. Now, of course, we all know what happened in 2020, but that was, that was like COVID was in the last 9 months of it, and then it's continued. But this increase that we're seeing, I was seeing that in schools when I was still a school counselor. I saw it in my practice before COVID. So COVID has just exacerbated this whole anxiety increase. And if you're a teacher or you're a nurse or whatever, you're seeing it too. It's coming through. And you can see that was up 25.5% from only 4 years before that. That's a huge increase. Indiana in 2020, their statistic, our kids, 16% of our kids, so nationally it was 12, but our kids were 16%, had anxiety or depression, up almost 37% from 2016. So it's just really on the rise, and COVID didn't help. So the next few slides, I'm not going to read these to you. You have them in your handout if you're at home. Hopefully you can see them. These are different signs we look for in kids, but also adults too. You know, a lot of these are typical of adults. So I'm not going to, like I said, stand here and read them to you. You can see what they are. And just especially note the fact that anger can be an indicator of anxiety. We don't always think of it that way. We think of anxiety being as more, nervous, or I'm crying or whatever. But a lot of times the emotion is so big, kids just don't know what to do with it. And so they're just, they just become angry. So don't discount anger. It's also can be an indicator of depression. And people don't think about that either. Other changes that you might see, and some of these are especially with our teenage folks, but could be with other people as well. Okay, so our question tonight is, okay, well, now we know that, what do we do? What can we do as a parent? What could I do as a grandparent, or whatever role that I'm in? I love this quote by Charles Swindoll about life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it, okay? So that's something we have to help kids learn, that it's our reaction. How are we handling these things? Because so many things we don't have control over them happening to us. So we're going to start with the basics, and you might think, well, that's kind of, I kind of know that. And if you're doing these things, great. Kids need routine. Now, they say they don't, and they don't, they'll say, I'm going to be out of here. But they do. They need it. They need that structure. It gives them security. It makes them feel good. And I know we can't always have dinner at 6 o'clock and all that kind of stuff. They're in activities. There's things going on. But somehow get some structure, get some routine. Bedtime, getting up in the morning, those are really important things. Sleep is so important. I think we all know when we don't get enough sleep, we get a little crabby ourselves, and that can really affect kids' mood if they don't have enough sleep. So it's important. My boys are grown. You heard they are both teachers. They were involved in lots of things in high school. There were nights we didn't eat dinner until 8:30 when they were home from stuff. And there is research out there in the literature that families who have at least 4 or 5 meals together a week, those kids are less likely to engage in risky behaviors like sex, drinking, drugs, and so on. So if it's breakfast, fine. If it's brunch on Sunday after church, fine. If it's Friday night dinner, pizza, and watch a movie, whatever. It's really important. And I think that's kind of a little-known fact. So it's good to have everybody at the family table, have a meal together, no devices. Not popular, and that includes parents. No devices. Be able to chat. Plan for transitions. Kids get anxious when they feel rushed, and it's time to get off the Xbox or whatever. I can't do the next level. I can't save it or whatever. So give them some warnings. I get some people up here like, give them some warnings. Hey, 15 more minutes, and then it's time to get your soccer clothes on. Or 15 more minutes, and it's going to be time for dinner. Okay? So helping them kind of plan in their head, this is what's going to happen. Changes, new situations, what to expect, and how they can act appropriately. Let's say you're going to have a big family reunion, and Aunt Minnie is going to be there from Wyoming or so, I don't know. Kids they don't know how to necessarily act in some of these situations, or you're getting a new soccer coach tonight. Let's think about how might you feel about that? What could we do? If you feel a certain way, what's something you could help yourself do to feel better or get to know that new soccer coach? Or it's just preparation. A lot of what we have to do with kids is helping them prepare for what to expect, what might happen, and then, how do I act in that situation? Pay attention to your child's feelings, and this is the hard part. They get anxious, and you stay calm. If they escalate and you escalate, what happens? It's a mess. Yeah. So the hard thing is for us as parents to stay calm while they're escalating, okay? Because we don't need, kids will mirror our feelings, us a lot. And so if we can stay calm as best we can, it will help. All right. So that was kind of some basic stuff. Here's another piece that it was really hard for me because there's so much good material out there. It was hard to pick out what am I going to share. But building resilience is a really important part of helping kids be less anxious or learning to manage. So resilience is just a simple, you make a mistake, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you go on. You keep going. Okay? Being able to bounce back, that's resilience. It doesn't mean you're happy about what happened or you're, whatever, but you're able to keep going. And you're able to bounce back. So if we can do that, kids will be better able to handle their anxiety and their stress. The research shows that kids who don't have resilience, and I heard that Lori Desotels was here and talked about ACEs and the factors that can affect kids and their development. And she's wonderful, and I've been to some of her workshops. But so kids without resilience are at risk for cognitive, emotional, physical, and social issues as they grow up. So that's why we really need to help our kids develop that resilience. So how do we do that? I decided to share two things with you of all the different things that are out there. So we need to help kids learn that challenging situations help us grow, help us learn and grow. They're not failures. Think of times in your own life when there was a challenging situation and it turned out to be a real growth-producing opportunity for you. Or what seemed like a failure at the time, as you look back on it, like, oh, okay, I get that now. All right, and sometimes it's a God wink. It's in there too. But so kids have to learn that. How do we do that? We need to let them know it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to make a mistake. We can believe that we can improve. If we do that, that is powerful. That gives us an ability to keep moving forward. And the last one is really important. When your child is upset about, oh, I'm not going to be able to do that, I can't do that dance move, or I'm not going to get that grade on my math test, or whatever it is that they're stressing about. It might be something new they're trying to learn. Ask them, what's something a long time ago when you were little, like 3 years ago, that was hard for you, but you did it? Okay? Success builds on success. Get them to look back on their little lives and, well, you got through that, and so I bet you can get through this too. We'll help you. We're here to help you with that. So that teaches them that they need to look back on their successes, and that will help them move forward. That builds that resilience. Don't rescue them. Okay? You hear that. I know you hear that from people. Don't rescue them. It doesn't mean you say, oh, well. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that as a parent or grandparent or whatever your role is, You give them support, you give them guidance, you help them, but if you do it for them, you're robbing them of the opportunity to learn how to do it for themselves. And what are they going to do with that first boss, that first job, that first college class that's really hard, whatever it is that you're not around? Okay? So it's difficult, but when you have them at home, now's the time for them to learn to stumble, and you're there to help them get up. Whereas later, they're somewhere else and you can't go fix it for them. So tough words to hear, I know, because we don't like our kids we don't like to see them sad. We don't like to see them hurt. But we're there to help them. Okay, so you're there to help them problem solve, face those challenges. Okay, another thing about resilience is that all emotions are okay to feel, and painful ones are okay to feel too. All right? We have to help kids learn that it's all right. That, again, we're not going to rescue them and take everything away, because they have to learn how to deal with that emotion and get through to the other side. All right? Mr. Rogers, if some of you remember him, is one of my heroes. And he always said, what's mentionable is manageable. So if we can talk about it, we can manage it. Talk about it, figure out what we're going to do. Okay? And then that's where we come in as parents to help our kids figure out, okay, what are we going to do about this? Teach them a problem solving, little 5 steps problem solving way to tackle situations. And we have to maybe help them, let's say they're sad, maybe somebody has died and they're sad. Well, could we make like a scrapbook about that person? Or do you want to make a slideshow about that person? Do you want to write a story if they're little kids? Or it could be a big kid too that might want to write a story about that person, or a poem. So we help them find tools to deal with those painful emotions. We don't want to sweep them under the rug. We don't want to pretend like they don't happen. Okay? And when we do that, we're helping them build some resilience. Okay? So there's kind of what I just spoke about. They also need to remember that feelings aren't going to last forever. And that's really important, because for kids right at that time, it feels like it's going to be forever. Okay. So this is a parenting author. He's not one of my favorites, so I don't use his material very often. But he's right on target with this quote, so I like to include it. So, if we're afraid to let our kids be frustrated, they're not going to have a very successful attitude towards the challenges of life. All right? They're going to want somebody else to do everything for them, and that's not going to work. All right, so we've talked about resilience. Now we're going to talk about encouraging communication. And I really wish this was a longer time, because I would love to have this be a little bit more interactive and have you do some more things, but because of the time, we don't have a lot. But when we're using encouraging communication, kids are going to feel respected, they're going to feel valued, and feel heard. And when kids feel that way, again, remember, I'm sharing things that you can do in your family or in your classroom or wherever, things that will help kids feel more that you're an approachable person, all right? So they'll want to come to you if they need somebody to listen, they're having a problem or whatever, and it will help them reduce their anxiety by talking. You have a separate handout. It's not the slideshow. It's a separate handout. And the very first one is called Encouraging Communication, encourages communication. And so this idea that I'm going to put up here in a minute is on there, but there's several others that are really important that, again, I had to pick and choose. But I wanted you to have all of those so you can read those on your own and think about how you can use those in your family or in your own setting. So, do you have handouts? Okay, just want to make sure. So this one is called Sum It Up, and it is so simple, and it is a habit you can start to use. You just have to be real intentional about it. And after you've done it for a little while, it will become a habit. And it is amazing. I mean, I have shared this simple little technique with families, and I'll have like 16-year-olds who will say, I just can't believe how nice my parents are talking to me. And I'm going, oh, really? What happened? Tell me about that, you know? And so you find the behavior that they're doing that you think is really good, and you pair it with a trait, a positive trait that you want to see your child develop. You put those two things together, and the examples here are, you know, you've got a teenager that's borrowing your car and they fill it up, you know, without being asked or told or anything. And you say, hey, thanks for filling the car up. That's really being responsible. So they get reinforced for the behavior that they did, and they also have this word in their head now about themselves. And over time, we do that, and then they have this recording in their head of, oh, I'm responsible. I'm dependable. I'm a hard worker. I'm caring. I'm compassionate. All right? Those are things we want our kids to have in their heads so that when they do get into a bind or they get into a stressful situation or they start getting, you know, defeated about something, they can pull those out and say, no, wait a minute. I am responsible. I'm kind. I'm caring. So this is a great way to help them develop some of that. So right now, real quick, I want you to turn to somebody near you. It might be three of you together. It doesn't matter. This is like 5 seconds, okay? I want you to tell each other some other words. I've got responsible, I've got determination, and self-control up there. Each of you think of one other characteristic that you hope your child will have when they're an adult, besides those 3. Okay? Go. Right here. And this one. Yeah. Yep, there's 2 different ones. Okay, thank you. All right, so kind of keep those words in mind. And as you see your children doing things or your teenager doing things, pull out one of those words. Or some people like they pick a word on Sunday and think, I'm going to look for that this week. And whenever I catch my kiddo doing something that's that particular word, I'm going to verbalize that to them. So anyway, very simple. You have to think about it, but after you've started doing it for a while, you'll just do it. And you know what? You'll feel good too. It's not just the kids that end up feeling good about that. Okay, so those are the things I wanted to share with you as parents or grandparents or whatever, that things we can do in our own environment to try to help reduce anxiety and stress in kids or provide that kind of space for them. Now we're going to go on to things that we can teach kids, all right, that we can share with kids, that they can do, all right? So I've looked at 4 different things. I decided to bring 4 different things for you. And the first one is halt. And like, stop, all right? They're getting anxious, they're getting stressed out. This, again, is a very simple thing, but important, and sometimes we skip over it if we don't stop and think about it. So teach them the word halt. Each letter stands for something. Am I hungry? Well, yeah, that's that hangry thing that, we hear about and happens to us sometimes too. Am I angry? Then I need to maybe talk to somebody about it. Am I having a problem with someone else? Do I need to, go relax and do something like drawing or shoot some baskets or whatever I do when I'm angry? Maybe that's something I can do. Take a break, whatever. Am I lonely? Do I need a hug? Okay. Do I need to go find my sibling? Do I need to call my friend? Do I need to go see mom or dad or whatever? Okay. So maybe they are lacking a little connection right then, and that's why they're feeling that stress or anxiety. And then, are we tired? Did I have enough sleep? Do I need to take a nap? Do I need to maybe just lay down? And kids generally don't want to do all that kind of stuff typically. But that also might be part of our problem is we just are tired. Okay? So don't skip over the idea that there might be one of these things going on with your kids when they're stressed out. And they need to learn to do this for themselves, a little checklist in their head. Use that HALT. Okay. Next one is mindfulness, and you probably have heard a lot about that, and I know that a lot of schools are trying to teach kids mindfulness. And it's just the idea that you notice your thoughts and your feelings and your physical sensation in the present moment. It's like you bring yourself back to where you are right now, okay? Because that kind of interrupts that worry cycle. Because they're worrying, and then if they have to stop and do some breathing and they have to look for certain sensations, that can help stop that cycle. StressTeens.org is on your resource page, which is the last page of your the thinner handout, the one that had the encouragement on it. That's really a good little website. So might be one that you want to check in on. Mindfulness has been shown to, in research, has been shown to be very beneficial for mental and physical health. It can really help people out. Just recently, there was a Washington Post article on a study that was done. This was just it was published like January 23rd. And it was showing how mindfulness really did help people with their anxiety over time. So it's really encouraging. So here's a couple things you can teach kids. I picked something that would be okay for little kids or teenagers, because some of the little kids stuff, the teenagers would be going like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So I wanted to share something that you could teach no matter what the age is, and we're going to do it. Okay, so this is participation, all right? So I want you to get comfortable where you are, and this isn't like weird or anything, okay? And, nobody's going to be, we're not going to look at each other or anything like that. So you're just sitting comfortably in your seat, and I want you to picture a square in front of you, okay? And when we teach this to kids, we do this part of it initially, and then they drop the tracing part because nobody really needs that after a while. So what you're going to do is you're going to picture the square, and you're going to start at I'm going to go this way, so I'm same as you. You're just going to start at the bottom left of your square, and you're going to go up with your finger, and as you're going up, you take a deep breath in through your nose, and then slowly, 1, 2, 3, and then as you trace across, you hold that breath, 1, 2, 3, and as you come down the side of the square, you breathe out through your mouth slowly, 1, 2, 3, and then as you cross the bottom of the square, you just hold it. You just wait, okay? So I don't know if that worked very well for me to turn around like that. So it's up this way, and you're holding it, then you're blowing out through your mouth, and then you're just waiting. It's kind of like hold, but you're not holding any breath, okay? So if you prefer to close your eyes, you can do it, but this is something you can do. You know, a child can be sitting in a math class ready to take a test, and they can sit and do this at their desk. Yeah, do you have oh, he's trying it. Okay, good. All right, so let's do it together. So ready? You're going to breathe in, trace, hold, blow out through your mouth, wait. Breathe in through your nose, hold, breathe out through your mouth, wait. Now do it without the tracing. Okay. All right, so I know it's kind of fakey and stuff, but that's how you do it. And kids will say, well, you know, we tell kids, just take deep breaths. You know, when they're nervous, we'll say, take a deep breath. It's okay, you'll be all right. And they'll go, that doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work because they haven't practiced it. It's muscle memory. It's just like swinging a bat or other things that we learn to do. We have to teach our body what that's all about. So I tell my clients, I teach them like 3 different breathing exercises. And I say, try these, pick the one you like, and then I want you to do it every night before you go to bed. You're laying in bed, you're doing this breathing 3 times. I don't say, you know, do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something. Do it 3 times. And then if you do that every night, then when you get in a stressful situation and you need to calm yourself down, you do that breathing and your body will go, oh, I know what this is. This is that thing where I relax. But if we haven't practiced it, our body doesn't know to do that. Okay? So that's a good little strategy that you can share with your kids, and do it if you've got especially younger kids. Do it with them. All right. The other thing about mindfulness that they tell us is to center yourself. So that is getting back to that idea of your environment and paying attention to that. So you pause for a moment. You should get some calm breathing going, some square breathing or whichever kind that you're doing. And then it's just simple. You look around, and I know this isn't on like it's not spelled out on your handout, but you notice 5 things. So you look around and you actually, in your head, you name 5 things. Like, I see that exit sign. I see that aisle. I see that book. I see that hymnal. I see that chair. So they're naming in their head 5 things that they see, okay? And then we tell them, try to listen for 5 things. Now, some places it's hard to hear, but, you know, there might not be very many sounds. But if we stopped in here and listened, we might hear, like I can hear the sound of the projector. We might hear somebody next to us breathing. We might hear a cough. All right, so 5 things they hear. And then 5 things that they feel that are in contact with their body. All right, maybe it's their jeans on their legs. Maybe it's their back on the chair. Maybe it's their elbow touching their ribs, you know, whatever. So 5 things they can feel. All right. So again, the point of this is breaking that cycle of anxiety and worry. All right. So we've got breathing, and then we have some centering kinds of things that kind of bring them back to the present moment. All right. Okay. The next one is called TIP, T-I-P-P. Each letter stands for something. I like that kind of stuff, as you can tell, because it's easy for kids to remember. All right? We've got to give them tools that they can grasp, you know, pretty quickly and get to when they need it. So the TIP skill is really for occasions when, you know, have you ever been in a situation where you are just overcome by an emotion? Most of us have. You're just absolutely overcome by it, and you don't know what to do with it. Well, it happens to kids too, and they really don't know what to do with it. So this is really for one of those kinds of major anxiety moments, or it could be anger. So any kind of emotion that's huge and overcomes them. So the first one is temperature. The T is for temperature, and that is, and I'm no doctor, so I can't explain this to you, but there's a physiological, these 4 things that are on the tip scale help your body bring down that emotion physiologically. It actually does something to you physiologically. So the temperature, splash cold water on their face, hold some ice cubes, get an ice pack, put it on their face, put it on the back of their neck. Some of you that are in the medical field probably know about that. And I know it has something to do with like bringing blood pressure down a little bit and that kind of thing too. Intense exercise is the I. Okay, so 5 minutes of jumping jacks, 5 minutes of like wall push-ups even, dancing. Some kids like to dance, do some fast walking or even walk in place, 5 to 10 minutes. That can pull that emotion down. We can pull the emotion down, then they can stop and think like, okay, now wait a minute, what can I do about this? What's making me anxious? What's going on? There is a caution there, it's on your handout, that if somebody has heart problems or if they have like bulimia or anorexia or something, they need to talk to their doctor before they would try any of these things. The other part of the tip skill is paced breathing, which is a little different than what we just did. And the main difference is you need to exhale longer than you inhaled. Okay, and always, just as I mentioned this, on the square breathing, you always breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Okay, that is just the best way to do that kind of deep breathing. And so it's just that exhale should take you longer. All right, and then the fourth one is paired muscle relaxation, where you're going to pair, like, you could squeeze your arms and your hands into a fist, and you breathe in through your nose while you're doing that, and you hold it, and then as you're breathing out through your mouth, you're relaxing that group of muscles. A lot of times they say start at your feet, and work your way up. But if you don't have time to do that, or you're not where you can do that, it's okay. Just, kids could even sit at a desk and tighten their arms and their hands, under their desk. Nobody needs to know. So that's the tip skill. All right. Oh, I'm watching the time. Oh, goodness. It's 10 till. Okay. So let me go through this part real quickly, and then we'll get some questions. So changing thinking. Well, let's see here. Most people think, unless they've done a little reading or whatever, or been to counseling, is that we have a situation and then we have a feeling about that situation. But that really isn't what happens. What really happens is we have a situation, then we have thoughts about that situation, and those thoughts create feelings. Okay? So one of the big, well-researched skills for teaching people who are having anxiety or depression is helping them learn to change their thinking. Okay? We can't necessarily change the event, but we can change how we think about the event. All right? So I'm going to just go through this so you can get to the example. And these are things you can help your kids learn. Okay? Maybe they're going to have to give a speech in class, so they're saying, I'll mess it up, everybody will laugh at me, I'll look stupid, I'm probably going to throw up, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so if they're thinking those things, then they're going to have these kinds of feelings. They're scared, they're nervous, whatever, okay? Now, we're not going to get to happy, okay? Most people are not happy to get up and give a speech, all right? And I tell kids that, we're not expecting that. But let's see how we can change our feelings if we change some of our thoughts. And we can try some of these thoughts. I'm going to practice a lot. I'll do it in front of my family. Other people are going to have to get up and give their speech, and, I'm not going to laugh at them, so they're probably not going to laugh at me. All right? And then if we can get them to change their thinking about it, then they might be more calm. All right? That didn't go, sorry. They may be a little bit more confident, maybe accepting of the situation. Okay? So this is really important. This is really important stuff. And kids need to know that their self-talk matters. Okay? What they're saying in their head about themselves and to themselves, it's really important. It doesn't mean it's true. They need to, be careful about that. Okay, so I'm not going to share the screen time break stuff with you because I did put a lot on there because I knew we might run short on time. And I know kids are not going to want to take a screen time break on their own, so this is something that you as parents are going to help them with. But it's really important and just really important stuff. Turning off a device an hour before bed is kind of the advice, sort of the advice that we give people, and not having devices in their bedroom. Well, I need an alarm clock. Well, guess what? There's an old-fashioned thing called a plug-in alarm clock, and we can get one. Okay, so there's another handout, and I didn't even plan to go through it with you. Just want to call your attention to it, called 30 coping strategies. Looks like this. And then there's another one about stress in America, and it's from the American Psychological Association. It's a good little handout for you. And then the resources page. And I brought some of the books, and I just laid them out up here. You're welcome to look at those afterwards if you want to see what they're like. And then finally, so my kid is stressed out, they're anxious. When do I go see a professional? And these are some questions that you can ask yourself about the situation to kind of help you decide, okay, do I need to take my child to counseling? Do we need you can talk to your doctor about it. It's another really good source. And the pediatricians now are giving, even the younger kids, they're giving them screens for anxiety and depression, which I think is great. We need to pay attention to this. So finally, one of my favorite quotes is from Sidney Harris, who was an author many years ago, wrote a lot of great books, and love is spelled T-I-M-E. Don't lose sight of that. That's really important. And okay, so I've talked to you about the resource page, and I try to pick out really important resources that I like a lot instead of just slamming you with a whole bunch of them, because that's, it's hard to go through that. So we'll take a few questions. I know some of you are on a time schedule and you may need to leave, and I understand that and appreciate that. So I just am very thankful that you came. I hope that you're leaving here with a couple new ideas. So thanks.
Thank you. Let me make one little announcement. For those of you online who would like the materials, I think if you would email Nancy Fortenberry at the church's office, we'll make sure we can get a duplicate of these written materials to you. Okay. All right, questions? I have one. Parents are going to have a lot of stressful situations of their own. Job loss, divorce, death in families, all the things that we all have seen. To what extent is it a good idea to openly model how you as a parent are dealing with those situations in a way that the kids can see how you deal with those situations?
That's a really good point. That when we're stressed out, if we can talk about our stress in a way that's appropriate for our age kiddo, you're not going to say something to a 5-year-old that you might say to your 13-year-old, okay? They need basic information, but not too much information. And I think, yes, we can say things like, well, I took a little time out today because I was getting kind of anxious, and I did some breathing, and I talked to my friend or whatever. And so I think having kids hear that is really important in modeling that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Other questions? Hold up your hand and we'll get you a microphone. Okay, we got one over here.
I have a question on the descriptive encouragement. Do you pick out words that you want to see more of, or do you try to pick out words that maybe are already a positive to call it out, or is it both?
It's both.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially if you are trying to build a certain, trait, then as soon as you see that, then yes, reinforce it with that. But continue to look, for that some more. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They need to hear both. Yeah. Others?
Jerry has one.
It seems to me that in our experience that we've run into bullying, and it's everywhere. Is this a product of our times? Is it a product of our society and our thinking and our media and everything else, or is it always been like this?
It's always been here, but it hasn't been here 24/7. And that's the problem with social media. That's the problem with, phones and texting and screenshots and Instagram and all those kinds of things. There's some good things about some of that. Oh, and TikTok, by the way. Oh, gosh. Feeding our kids stuff it's just awful, what's coming down that TikTok pike. So there was the old playground bully, I'm going to beat you up, and maybe did or something like that. But now it's worse, and a lot of it is our society and the social media piece, and it's gotten pretty bad. Yep.
I find the emotional bullying to be in some ways worse than physical.
And that's the much of the kind of bullying that's going on now is the emotional bullying, the verbal stuff, and I wish you were dead, that kind of thing, or writing that, or texting that to someone. And I don't think that kind of thing happened so much many years ago, where people... It's so amazing how bold people become behind a screen. It really is very disturbing. So, and some of it is our society and what we think is okay now. And it's not okay. And it's very hurtful. It's just really sad. So that's another whole workshop in itself, which I do. But yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah.
I kind of formulated one, and based on the 16% that you kind of feel in the earlier slide, are the reactions from the children, the young adults, worse than what they were 15 years ago, 20 years ago? Or?
Their anxiety, you mean? Yes, I think it is. And I think COVID has really created a big problem for this group of kids as we're going to watch them go through school. When I'm talking to a new family, I now ask, what grade was your child in March of 2020? I mean, who would have thought I would ever have to ask that? But I need to know, was this kiddo in kindergarten in 2020? Was this person a junior in high school? I mean, I still have college kids I see that, I saw them as high schoolers, and they're college kids now, and some of those kids are still struggling because they were juniors or seniors when COVID started, and they're still having trouble. I mean, and they also have some mental health issues, so you've got, those two things together. But But you're right, I do think things are worse than they were 20 years ago. And then COVID has made it even more, more so.
What are some words for kids who, like, they just refuse to do their schoolwork, they refuse to engage in things? What are some words and some things that adults can do
Some words
to
you
help
said?
them? Like, words, things you can do to help them, like,
Well, if they're
because I see so much of that.
Yeah, I guess somebody needs, someone needs to try to get to the bottom of how come, that's not good English, but for kids it's better than why, How come you feel that way? What about this is difficult, or what, because that's a deep-rooted thing. I'm not saying they have some terrible problem, but there's something going on with that child's life that they're refusing. No, I know. I think opening up communication, that's really the bottom line here. That's how we have to we need to let kids know we're approachable and that we want to listen. And I would, gosh, you seem really down today, or you seem really unhappy, or you seem angry. Are you feeling angry? Just that kind of opener. Now, they may not take it, and they may not take it right then, but they'll know that you care. And that's huge. And they may come back to you later and say something, or you may put that out there again another time, and then that time they take you up on it. So I hope that helps. Thanks for a good question.
Anyone else? All right, well, thank you, Carlabeth, very much.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate the tips and the insights. It's vitally important stuff for all of us. John, you got another one.
One last question.
And it goes like this. How do you know that it's time to get professional help?
How do you know?
Yes.
Well, those questions that were near the end, if you go through those and you're seeing that, other people are getting concerned, I've tried all the typical things that work and it's not working, then it's like, maybe I should do that. And check with the school about someone who sees children, check with the doctor about, someone, get names that way, check with your neighbors. This isn't the time for us we're getting better about sharing on this kind of stuff. But, there's not as much stigma as there used to be, but there's still some. But I get most of my clients through word of mouth. People talking with their friend, my child is seeing so-and-so because he's feeling this way. Oh, okay, can I have that person's name? So talking to your friends and seeing, getting their ideas and names and so on is a good idea. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one final thing to tell you. Next month at this time, so it'll be, in fact, since it's February to March, it'll be the same date, March the 8th on Wednesday night. Our next speaker will be Dan Wakefield, who is going to be here to talk about his own experiences with the Emmett Till murder trial in 1955. Dan's the only living journalist who actually attended the trial, and he wrote an article for The Nation. So you'll hear more about that, but we would, different kind of topic, but also an important one. So keep that in mind as you look into next month's schedule. Carlabeth, thank you very much again
Thank you,
for
John.
coming to help
Thanks
us out.
again for having me.
We appreciate it.